This is Ricardo. This is Anthony. So contrary to what you might see in the videos and me being a loner, even though I do have friends. And we're out here at the Lynx Bar and Grill enjoying a nice, awesome dinner, beverages. Certainly recommend checking this place out. But you didn't come here for the food, you came here for the poker. So let's get into a session that I played several days ago. All right, it's Sunday, back here at the usual Lucky Chances. Pretty early in the morning right now, 9:30. I don't usually play this early on a Sunday, but took the last few days off and feeling pretty refreshed to get back after it. Based on the way the parking lot looks right now, it doesn't seem to be too busy. It's fairly empty, which is to be expected. Many of you are probably at home being very mindful of your sports wagering and fantasy sports considerations. And prior to the pandemic, the Lucky Chances Casino was pretty busy on Sundays because they have the nice tournaments and they used to have all these TVs in the indoor portion of the poker room. So, you know, just a lot of incentive for people to come out and play. But that's not going to be the case today. No TVs in the outdoor setup. And we'll just see how the games look. So you know how in the last session I said I hope for a smooth session the next go around? That doesn't happen in this game. Closing things out here from Lucky Chances, started the session at 9:30, wrapping up at 5:30, so a proper 8-hour session. And let's get into these hands. In this first hand, I raise it to $20 from the hijack with King 6 of hearts, and I get calls from the button and big blind. 3 ways to a flop of Queen 7-3 rainbow. Action checks through. Turn comes a 4 of hearts, so I pick up a combo draw. Big blind puts out a bet of $45 with $180 back. Can definitely put in a semi-bluff raise here, but I decide to take the more conservative route and just call, and the button folds. We go heads up to a river, which comes a queen of diamonds, so I brick out on everything. She bets $60 with $120 back. Although I do block a combo of king-queen suited, I don't think it matters that much in this spot versus big blind's 2-street aggression. And because she doesn't have that much back, I just don't think there's enough fold equity, so I decide to let it go. In this next hand, there's a hijack raise to $20. I pick up pocket kings on the cutoff and 3-bet it to $65, and the hijack makes the call. Heads up to a flop of ace 8-6 with 2 spades. When he checks, I think his range is going to be connecting decently on this flop, so I decide to just check it back. Turn comes a 3 of clubs, and he fires out $60. This is a semi-interesting card because I do block backdoor clubs, but my natural lean is that he's weighted towards an ace or spades. That said, I decided to give him credit for the former, so I decide to just make the conservative fold here. In this next time, we're playing 7-handed. I'm first to act and I raise it to $20 with 10 jack of hearts, and I get 3 callers, the low jack, cutoff, and big blind. 4 ways to a flop, which comes 10 high, 10-7-3 rainbow. Checks to me, I c-bet $50 and only the cutoff calls. Turn pairs the 7. I continue firing this time for $120, looking to get value from hands such as under pairs or more specifically 8-9. He decides to make the call. River comes a deuce of diamonds, and now I'm not sure if I can get more value from a worse hand, so I decide to check, and he checks it back. He tables ace 10 offsuit for the bigger kicker to take this hand down. If I felt strongly that he had a 10, you can definitely make the argument for bombing the river as a bluff, since I do have all the overpairs and block top set. That said, it's a very rare situation to be turning top pair into a bluff, and it really requires precise hand reading to be able to turn a hand like that into a bluff. So didn't do that here, and I lose this one. In this next hand, the hijack and button limp. Small blind completes. I'm in the big blind with ace queen offsuit, and I raise it to $30. The hijack does the limp re-raise, and he jams for $162. Folds back to me, and it's a decent price to gamble, so I call. We go to a flop of 10-3 deuce with 2 spades, and I just table my hand after this flop, as does he, and he has pocket kings. The turn comes an ace of clubs, so I outdraw him, and the river comes a deuce of hearts, so I take this hand down. In this next hand, middle position raises to $25. Hijack calls. I'm in the small blind with pocket queens, and I decide to 3-bet it to $120. Middle position calls, leaving roughly $600 back. Hijack jams for $280 total. It's a good spot to rejam, so that's what I do to get the middle position out of the hand, and he does fold. We table our hands, and she unfortunately has pocket aces. We go to a run out of king 6-6, 5, 3, So I'm not able to outdraw this time, and I lose this one. In this next hand, it's a straddle pot. Low jack limps, gets to me on the button. I raise to $45 with ace 4 of spades, and I get calls from the big blind and the low jack. Through raise to a flop of 8-6-5 rainbow. It's not a great board to c-bet, so when it checks to me, I decide to check it back. Turn comes an ace of hearts, so I make top pair. Checks to me, and the conventional thought here is to make a bet with top pair, especially given the passive play from the two players. The problem is that I could have better aces here, such as ace x Broadway type hands. A couple other things in play here. My ace doesn't beat any other aces, and so a bet would be primarily geared towards equity denial. But let's say I do fire a bet and I get raised. I'm just going to have a very difficult time continuing, because the worst hands that we'd be putting in check raises would be hands that have a lot of equity against my exact hand holding, such as pair plus straight draws, pair plus flush draws. And the other factor is that these two players like to trap, so I decide to check it back. We go to a river of a 5 of clubs. Big blind leads for $45. Low jack raises to $145. I fold and big blind folds, so don't get to see a showdown, but I do lose this one. This next hand is pretty interesting. Middle position limps, cutoff raises to $25. I call from the big blind pretty light with 6-3 of clubs, and middle position calls as well. Three ways to a flop of 8-4-3 rainbow, so I flop bottom pair with some backdoors. Checks over to the initial raiser, and the cutoff bets $40. I decide to make the call, and middle position folds. Turn comes a pretty good card from my hand. It comes a 5 of spades, so I pick up open-ended. I check. She bets $75 with roughly $600 back. She's got a good stack depth for me to make a play here, especially since the board favors me, so I decide to put in a check raise to $225. I think this is good sizing because it sets up for a $450 river jam, and she's in the tank for quite a while, so that's a good sign. And after some deliberation, she ends up showing an 8 of spades and letting her hand go. So good result here. This next hand is a straddle pot, and there are 3 limpers. I raise it to $65 from the button with a relatively light holding, king 5 of spades, and only the hijack calls, who is the best tournament player in the Bay Area, not named Pat Lyons. Heads up to a flop of king 7-3 with 2 clubs. When he checks, I decide to check it back just to stay protected here. Turn comes a 10 of diamonds, so pretty good card. He decides to bet $85, and I decide to just smooth call. River comes a 5 of clubs, so it does complete the front door flush, but it gives me 2 pair. He's in the tank for a bit before firing out a pretty polarized bet of $280. I just make the quick call. He taps the table and mucks, and I take this one down. In this next hand, I raise it to $20 from the cutoff with 4-6 of spades, the button, and the 2 blinds call. 4 ways to a flop of 9-5 deuce with 2 spades, so flop, a very high equity holding here. Small blind bets $40, big blind folds. I decide to just make the call, and button folds. The turn comes a 4 of diamonds, and he bets $40 again. I have to just make the call and play my hand straight up for its equity against a pretty value heavy profile that tends to be call happy, so I'm not sure that I want to try to put in a semi bluff in this spot. We go to a river of a 3 of hearts, so I make the straight. He bets $100, and I raise it up to $350. He's in the tank for quite a while, and after 2 to 3 minutes, he shows a 9 of hearts and lets it go. This next hand, we're playing 6-handed. I raise it to $20 from the cutoff with king 5 suited again, and I get calls from the button and the 2 blinds. We go 4 ways to a flop of king 10-6 rainbow, so I flop top pair with backdoor spades. Checks to me, I fire out $40, button calls, and big blind puts in a raise to $120. I make the call, and the button folds. Turn comes a 7 of hearts, and she continues the aggression for $120. I make the call again. River comes a queen of clubs. She puts out another bet, $200. And although her sizing screams value, I just take into consideration the fact that people do weird things in live poker. Maybe she has queen jack and thinks that rivering a pair of queens is good against a 10. Thinks that she can maybe get some value here. So all that considered, I make the call. She tables king 4 of diamonds, so we chop it up in this hand. In this next hand, there's a hijack raise to $25. I call from the cutoff with pocket 6s, and the small blind calls as well. 3 ways to a flop of queen queen 6, so I flop the full house. Checks to me, and I decide to check it back. Turn comes an ace of diamonds. Checks to the initial raiser, who was the hijack, and he bets out pretty small, $25. I put in the raise to $90. Small blind folds, and hijack calls. We go to a river of a deuce of hearts, and this time he puts out a bet of $95. I decide to raise it up to $400, and he's in the tank for quite a while and ultimately settles on a call. I table my hand, and he also shows his hand, which happened to be king queen offsuit. So a pretty nasty cooler here, and I take this hand down. All right, so last hand I was able to capture here on video. There are a couple limps. I raised it to $30 from the small blind with ace queen offsuit and the hijack and cutoff call. 3 ways to a flop of king king queen. Checks over to the cutoff, who bets $40. I decide to make the call, and hijack folds. Turn comes a 5 of spades. I check, he bets $50. I make the call. River comes a 10 of clubs. I check, and this time he goes for a pretty polarized sizing of $300. I just snap it off here because my hand I feel like is too strong to ever fold. And unfortunately, he shows king 8 of diamonds to take this hand down. So that wraps it up for the notable hands that I was able to capture on video. I do have one more hand to share to wrap up this session, but I didn't get it on film. After a bunch of hands, I decided to just stop filming and just focus on playing, and things took a turn for the worst. What had transpired was I was up roughly $1,100, and I ended up going down to negative 500. So it was a couple of close equity spots that I didn't have come through for me, so those were fairly standard. There's a couple bluffs that were failed attempts on my part. But after all that happened, I do have this one last hand to share. There's a hijack raise to $20. Small blind calls. I'm in the big blind with king queen of diamonds. I 3-bet it, playing another 600 back, and I'm covered by the hijack, who makes the call, and the small blind folds. Heads up to a flop of ace ace 6 with 2 hearts. I decide to c-bet it for $75. I down bet it. He thinks it through for a little bit and raises me the 375. So when he puts in that raise, it doesn't feel like he ever has an ace there. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think he's going to be weighted towards flush draws and pocket pairs. I'm not ahead of pocket pairs, but I should be ahead of all flush draws unless he has exactly king queen of hearts, which I don't think he has. So after thinking it through for a little bit, I assemble my chips and I put it all in for $607. So another 200 and change. And he doesn't snap me, so that's good, because I believe that I still had a little bit of fold equity. After he deliberates for a bit, he does make the call. He does ask me if I have an ace, to which I respond that I don't, which indicates that he has a pocket pair and I'm behind. We go off to a run out, which comes a queen of hearts and a 4 of clubs. I table my hand, gives us the head shake. So I get bailed out in this spot by the poker gods, and I make a pair on the turn, and just a fortunate spot to salvage the afternoon. So that wraps it up for a very up and down session. It started off very smooth, and I think I perhaps got a little bit comfortable and just expected it to continue in that manner. I was definitely humbled by the poker gods when I went through that valley there, but luckily was able to battle back. I was in the game for $1,200, and I cash out $1,463. So a small profit of $263 pales in comparison to the 1K I was up at one point, but given how everything played out, I am extremely happy to be up and leaving. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all on the next one.